everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Tearing It Up, another podcast in the wild. We are at Donner Lake. I've got Emme here of Articles in Common. So we are sitting down on the beach today at Donner, just below a dock. We've got a little room now. I think they're letting some water out. We have her dog Dakota with us. Mine are going to be so jealous I won't show them this and let them know that there was another dog here while recording because I told them I had to go to work. But I'm super stoked for this conversation because we've got something exciting coming up with Emme and Articles in Common for Rome Fest, which we'll dive into that. But first, we're going to get to know Emme here and learn about Articles in Common and you. So, first tell us, you're here in Truckee right now, but where do you reside?
I'm in LA. Yeah.
What are you doing up here in Truckee, by the way? We didn't talk about that. You were like, oh, I'm actually going to be up there. I'm like, awesome. Let's do this in person. But what brought you up here this week?
Well, we come up here. I have 4 dogs, so we come up here every chance we get and just let the dogs roam. It's too hot in LA right now. It's like scorching. But yeah, and we just love it up here. It's just like, I don't know, second home.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, there's a lot to love around here. And as you guys might be able to see, it is August still, but the weather this week here did cool down. We've been getting these afternoon thunderstorms and a bunch of rain. It was socked in a bit. You might be able to kind of tell it's clearing out, but it was a little bit cooler. So it was the first time I wore pants today and long socks in a very long time. I had a sweatshirt on. And it's what I call false fall. Because September, is around the corner, Monday or whatnot. And then kids are going back to school, Labor Day, all that, where it feels like fall because of those things.
Yeah.
And then we've gotten this cooler
I
weather.
love this, though.
Me too.
Yeah.
This has to be
the best.
Amazing break from LA.
Yes. It was luckily most of the summer wasn't as bad as last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so, especially when you have dogs, it's they can't do anything in the heat,
Yeah, we're pretty spoiled around here with our weather. Talk about it a lot, I work at a brewery and restaurant too.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people coming up from places that are much hotter.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about the heat, they're always like, it is not hot here, It's yeah, for us it is. And I think about okay, I don't want to go bike in the middle of the day or take the dogs out in the middle of the day. But so I can imagine somewhere where it's even hotter, how that can be hard to get out and adventure during these times of year. So
for sure,
it's going to be lovely to come up to a little bit cooler weather and hang out. And then we get to do this.
So the best.
This is amazing. All right. Well, tell us a little bit about your background. And are you from LA or Southern California, or what brought you there?
No, I'm originally from Chicago, actually. I've been in LA for 12 years now. Yeah. It's been a long, I can't believe 12 years.
What brought you from LA to Chicago?
Part of it was work, but it was also very weather motivated because they're just, it just gets so cold in Chicago by the lake. And, yeah, and we were both kind of over it. And yeah. And so, but, we love it in LA, and we love just the West Coast in general, and just being able to come up to places like Tahoe and the Sierras, and, just we both are avid backpackers, and we did Tahoe Rim with the dogs.
Oh, cool.
Last year. And, I just had 3 dogs at the time.
Yeah, now you have 4?
Yeah. But yeah, it was cool. I mean, they were troopers. They loved every minute of it. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Were you avid backpackers and whatnot before making the move west and into the outdoors, or did that all kind of happen when you made the move?
Oh, it all happened out here. Chicago's not really a I don't know, that you don't have as much to explore there, really. I
Yeah.
mean, you have parts of, like, Wisconsin, like Kettle Moraine and stuff like that, which is cool, but you don't have the mountains, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, but, like, the minute we came out here, it was like a whole new world for us, like, totally opened up, and that's I had started working in fashion at the same time in apparel manufacturing, designing apparel, and, at the same time, I was exploring and hiking and backpacking, and yeah, that's kind of how the beginnings of the idea of articles in common started to just things started to percolate,
Yeah.
because the more time I spent working in fashion, it was like such a, right away, you just know how toxic, how wasteful it is.
Mhm.
You get a full picture of exactly like what production and overproduction is doing to our culture as a society, but also just our planet,
Yeah.
And like this, it's the machine. I call it the machine. Like you're just driving production all of the time and feeding the machine. And I would just spend as much time as I could outdoors to kind of like counteract that toxic environment. And the more time I spent outdoors, the more I started to feel like protective of it,
Mhm.
you know? I mean, for the first time in my life, I actually felt nostalgia for my environment and patriotism for
Yeah.
my environment. Um, and yeah, it's like as outdoors, we so often think about the wild as our playground, but it's actually home to so many species before it's our playground. And I don't think people always think of that.
Love what you're mentioning here with the like we think of the outdoors as our playground. When we had our first intro call, we talked a little bit about this and it's been like in my mind since that conversation and
Yeah.
I just picking it up and when I hear other people's language about that and I'm noticing other people to, say that and kind of pick it apart where it's like, yeah, we treat it as our playground. We just want to get out and do the fun things, but there's so much more to protecting the outdoors than like just so we can go enjoy it.
Yeah.
And like you've been using your channels and your platforms to talk about that and raise that conversation and like why aren't we actually having this conversation that it is not just so we can go especially from the brand side like I
Hmm.
don't own a brand so I feel like it can obviously be easy to like to pick at them that you're saying like protect the outdoors so you can buy our gear and get outside like
Yeah.
but there's obviously so much more the animals the habitat the plants like things we have to protect first so that the outdoors are even there not just a pile of desert that is too hot to go out and play in right with no animals no plants like we need to actually think about the real protection of it for its natural environment not just so we get to enjoy it.
Yeah. The outdoors is really good um, teaching stewardship, but and they're really good at advocating for access. But that is all a part of the narrative. I mean, access allows brands to exist.
Mhm. Yeah.
Outdoor recreation allows brands to exist. And they know that. And they use that to advantage by lobbying through nonprofits, lobbying through, their own nonprofits or big outdoor uh nonprofits, like
Mhm.
clearly we saw what happened with REI and Outdoor Industry Association and Outdoor Recreation Roundtable and so um and the backlash that came with that. And so it's like how can you defend something like that? How can you say that you're you care about the outdoors, but then you support your actions are doing just the opposite,
Yeah.
you know? I think that was kind of an eye opener for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And before we go any further too, I mean, we're going to dive into Articles in Common and kind of how it started, but for like kind of elevator pitch for those who aren't familiar with Articles in Common, let's lay it out for the audience what your company is exactly.
So, Articles in Common is a secondhand marketplace for outdoor gear and apparel and gear adjacent items. But it's really a lifestyle brand because we're not just trying to sell secondhand outdoor gear. We also do outdoor books, we do dog gear, we do outdoor vintage. It's more of like this lifestyle because that's what I feel like, and that's part of why I started it is because I wanted a place that was reflective of someone who just wants to live a more sustainable lifestyle. And I think too often we've been part of this narrative. I keep talking about the narrative that we've been sold, and part of that narrative is constructed by outdoor brands. But part of the narrative is also that we've been told that it's our responsibility to buy better. It's our responsibility to make the right choice, the better choice, right? But of course, I believe that as humans, we have our own opportunity to be accountable for our actions and the way we live, and that it doesn't cause harm to our planet or to wildlife, right? But I don't believe in the story that we have more of an impact than these brands do.
Right.
And these brands need to start taking ownership and accountability for that instead of pushing that decision onto the consumer. It's no different than what big oil did with recycling.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, you can recycle your way out of this problem.
Right.
Which they knew was not true. And so outdoor brands, we have the same issue. They're saying you can buy a better way out of this. You can buy recycled polyester jacket instead of, you can buy PFAS, non-intentional PFAS. That's how they get out of that loophole.
Oh.
Because as long as it's labeled non-intentional, they can't be held responsible if their supplier is using PFAS in their material without them knowing.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
So then that puts the pressure off of them, the brand, and keeps it onto the actual manufacturer supplier. Because, unless you're a vertical brand, you're not actually making the stuff that you're selling.
Yep. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's not many of those. And so by vertical, you mean like a brand who is sourcing and manufacturing like everything themselves, not outsourcing anything to a third party like manufacturer at all.
They own the whole process. You know?
That's not, I mean, I gotta imagine that's not many brands out there at all.
No.
That's got to be, I'm sure, hard to do, and which is why people don't do it. Very expensive.
Yeah.
But it also is what leads to so many things that are out of people's control, or it takes the liability, like Shane, off of the brand, which is also what people want. Like, how can we make the most money and not, like, be in the position to lose it all if something went wrong? Like, I get it. It's business, but I get that's part of the problem in this country is business and the dollar come first over what's actually right.
Yeah. I mean, businesses they're made to do one thing, and that is to drive profit.
Yeah.
That right there alone is why you cannot brand your way out of climate collapse.
Yeah.
You cannot brand your way out of the climate crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about it in terms of that, like the outdoor industry is really not at a sustainable point right now.
Yeah.
It's at a very vulnerable point. And I don't think a lot of people are having that conversation in the outdoors, at least none that I've seen, you know?
It's tough to have these conversations because I get as a person who, again, I don't own a brand, right? I'm not making product, and I feel like every single one of us can be hypocritical, right? We want to save the planet and or protect as much as we can, but we also fall to consumerism or, everything in life because of how our society's been built. Like, it's very hard to live completely like clean, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think that, I don't take it as you're putting blame on anybody or saying you're doing it all completely right or anything like that. I think it's absolutely fine that we admit that we all can be better and we all can only do what we can do. How do we try and do it better? And how can these big corporations and brands do it better? And I think that with a conversation you're starting to with the outdoors being more than just our playground, and just even simply changing that language can be so impactful for consumers to
Yeah.
hear.
Yeah.
Because like you said as well, the responsibility so often is put on the consumer.
Yeah.
Buy this instead of that, when it's like, well, I guess really the problem is buying at all, right? We shouldn't. But again, well, how does a business survive then and drive profit and the economy and all that? It's a vicious circle and
Yeah.
cycle that we're in.
For sure.
So I don't know if there's an answer for any of it, but what do you feel that people could be doing better in these spaces to help change the narrative or the way of thinking?
I think brands just need to take accountability,
Yeah.
and right now they just keep churning it out,
Mm-hmm.
and they keep, like you cannot experience the outdoors without first experiencing the brand.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's how closely connected they are. They've integrated themselves into every single community event, every single outdoor event, uh, everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, where do you go without having a brand try to sell you something?
Right. Yeah.
And I honestly think that we need to start having this conversation about what it means to truly be sustainable, because in the fact that, if North Face came up and said, okay, hey, we know that we haven't approached this the best way, but this starts now and this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to sell you on the fact that they'll fly a helicopter out in the middle of the backcountry to give you a new rain jacket. Like, come on. I don't know if you ever saw that.
Yes, I love
that
that you
video?
mentioned that. If you guys don't know out there, there was a viral video from the North Face, this spring or something? And
Yeah.
was it all like real? Like a real situation? Or was this all, I'm sure obviously at some point it had to be planned, but the
Right.
premise
Yes.
is that someone was out in the middle of the backcountry, needed a new rain jacket.
Her rain jacket failed. It failed to keep her dry.
Yeah.
And she was like, this is bullshit. Like, this is your rain jacket. So North Face supposedly took that as an opportunity and used it to their advantage by working with that content creator to then come up with like a response to that.
Mm-hmm.
And they literally had her out in the backcountry, recreating that scene of her jacket failing on her. And then cut to some North Face employee going into the store, grabbing a replacement jacket for her, hopping onto a helicopter and flying it out into the middle. Like, where was your sustainability director whenever you decided to produce that video? Because if I was running your sustainability, program, I would have been like, absolutely not. Like, that goes against everything that we're saying.
Exactly. It's values fighting each other. And I was just I at the Title IX headquarters for something I'm doing with them in the near future. And we talked a lot about values, and I brought up, big companies, a lot of these outdoor, I mean, every brand starts small, right?
Yeah.
And especially the outdoor industry, they start with these like core values. Someone really loves the outdoors. They want to make gear that was better and gets them outside now. At this point in time, I think the innovation has slowed way down, right? In the 70s, 80s, whatever, when it all really started to boom and hit, there was a lot of room for growth. Now I don't think there's as much room for growth, and it's just about new colors, a slightly new style with the trend and whatnot. And maybe it's because of that the needs aren't there as much, that I feel like they're all kind of just fighting their own values all the time. And also that's just what happens when you become a bigger business, that it is very hard to stay true to your core
Yeah.
values.
Right.
And that's where I say and think often that, most of us are hypocrites, because we say one thing and do one thing. I want to protect as much as I can, but I do ride a snowmobile and I love snowmobiling,
Yeah.
and we drive cars and all of that. But again, when it comes to a big brand who's shouting something to the masses and then
Right.
does the complete opposite,
Right.
well, that's a little bit different. And I think that they should be held to a different standard than
Totally.
the everyday
Where's the
consumer person.
accountability in that?
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what are you actually marketing?
Mm-hmm.
And because if you're a global retailer like the North Face or Patagonia, your product line is massive, massive. And so if you're telling everybody, don't buy this jacket, if you just made one less jacket, that would have such an enormous impact compared to thousands of people not buying that one jacket.
Yeah,
But we're not talking about that. You know what I mean?
yeah.
We're not talking about producing less.
Mm-hmm.
And brands ultimately feel like they can't, because they have to drive profit.
Yeah, every year has to be a higher. You're bringing in more, right? And this is also a conversation I've had recently with a group of people. I'm in the Futurist Project, an
Oh
outdoor
yeah,
leadership
cool.
program.
Yeah,
And so, we talk a lot about sustainability, advocacy, and
yeah,
having these conversations, because a lot of folks in that program are like work with brands, and it's part of the everyday conversation, especially in the outdoors right now. But it is, how on earth it feels so much like, especially from the consumer side, like, can we just please take a pause, right? And you can't pitch that to anybody in sales and the higher ups in the company, because we understand like your sales every year, they want it to be more than the last. That's the goal.
yeah.
But it is like, does it have to be like, where is the just like, I don't want to say like just survive mode, but like you can pay your people, your company can survive without it always growing, right? It seems
Mhm.
that every year it has to grow, but why do we have to grow every year? Why can't things just be a nice straight line, green, we're good?
Because investors want their money.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but the other thing that I want to point out in this narrative that we're sold, we talked about how brands they 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 really try to control every aspect, every touch point that a person has with the outdoors, right?
Mhm, mhm.
But that also includes this this culture of elitism, of like always having to it's exploiting this feeling of not being enough, or wanting to be the best,
Mhm,
wanting to be the the greatest,
mhm.
you know? And it's all psychology.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something that Nike's been doing forever. With Tiger Woods and Michael Jordan, you have North Face with Alex Honnold.
Mhm,
You know what I mean? And it's like they use athletes as a way to support and drive that narrative.
mhm.
That if you want to be like them, if you want to be the greatest and the best, then this is your way to buy into that.
Yeah. Wear this
Yeah.
shoe, this shirt, this whatever, and thinking of skis or snowboards or equipment at all, I think this is when I really realized um, how it's all a false kind of narrative is when it comes to pro models for like skis or snowboards.
Yeah.
You might be buying someone's like pro model and their design. That is not the board or skis that professional is riding. They are riding one that was custom built for them, has carbon stringers in it or something. And the one you're buying off the shelf at your local ski shop is not the one that they're taking out and riding. It's just the same shape.
Yeah.
But odds are, so there is something in that is not for the everyday consumer because, yeah, this professional skier, snowboarder needs that stiffer board or something way more specific that the everyday consumer doesn't. So again, it's just the graphic or the shape or something that makes it their own. But you think that you're riding the same thing they are.
Yeah.
That's why it's called the pro model. And obviously, until, yes, you learn a little bit more, but the majority of people don't know that. They're not as immersed into whatever the sport is to know. And so, yeah, it's just, again, that false, like, oh, well, look at this person. You want to be like them, ride this board. And it's like, nope, that's not going to do it.
And you know what? Like, what's so ironic, if you take the example with Alex Honnold and the North Face,
Mhm.
right? He didn't climb El Cap in a brand new pair of North Face shoes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he didn't climb El Cap in like the latest drop from the North Face.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't need those things to excel.
Yeah.
You don't need the latest and greatest to excel.
Mhm.
You don't need those things to even have a true connection to the outdoors.
Mhm.
Going outdoors, exploring the outdoors, doing whatever you do outdoors has nothing to do with what you're wearing. You don't need a technical jacket to enjoy snowboarding.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do and what I'm trying to do is question that narrative.
Mhm.
You know, it's like what in every sport there's a purist. There's a group of purists
Yes.
that want to do, they don't buy into all the hype.
Mhm.
They just love the sport for the love of the sport.
Mhm.
And that's what they want. But brands exploit that.
Yeah.
They try to tap into that as a marketing tool.
Yeah.
But those purists, they could care less about what brand something is.
Mhm.
And it's like, well, okay, if you are this athlete that you claim, then you really don't need the latest and greatest gear.
Yeah.
So why can't that be the model
Mhm.
that we're trying to sell? Why can't that be the standard?
Yeah.
You know, if you're so elite, you're so good that you don't need the new gear all the time, that you climb in 10-year-old shoes.
Yeah.
You free soloed El Cap in 10-year-old shoes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I love that you brought up like the purists because there's this guy we know, again, he's an old time like snowmobiler around here, my boyfriend's buddy, but he's one of those guys that, yeah, duct tape boots and
Yeah.
just like old bibs and whatever, and
Yeah.
just gets out there and rallies so hard. But at some point, I don't know when. It's been around for obviously decades and decades, but the societal pressure of how you look, right? If
Yeah.
you look like you're wearing an old ratty jacket, it's about being accepted, I think, is
Mhm.
where it started. And now you got to look cool, look the part. You have the latest gear. But we know we've seen so many people like that. They look the part and then they like do not, do the sport very well. And that's all good and fine, whatever, no judgment. But it's just like, there's been plenty of times I've said, look good, feel good, right? But like that can be in just how you come off as a person. It's not going to make you better at the sport, right? And so when they're trying to sell you apparel, especially for activities, it is just, again, selling you that false narrative that like you're going to believe that it's going to be easy now. And
Yeah.
it's not. And obviously there's a time and a place for better technical gear. If you're really doing I think a very technical or long pursuit or something where you need to make sure you have the proper gear,
Mhm.
right? To stay warm, to stay dry. But that isn't always the newest and latest and greatest if you
Right.
also learn how to take care of your gear, because
Right.
there are many people that don't even wash their jackets because they think that's going to deteriorate it, which obviously in a way it does, but getting that dirt out of those pores and things of your jacket, learning how to wash and take care of your gear actually can extend the lifetime. But you don't really see people talking about that. You don't see a lot of brands talking about Nick Wash, or Nick Wax, is a well-known company that's technical gear cleaning and re-waterproofing.
Right.
And I think some brands have partnered with them and whatnot, but there's not enough of those conversations of like, how do we extend the life of our own gear? It's like, it's almost that the brands don't even want to have those conversations because again, they have to reach these sales every year, have the year over year growth of a certain amount. And I know again, our society just hasn't set us up to not have to have that, to not want that. And I don't know again how that can start, who can take the leap there.
Well, it's also like this, like branded resale was built by, it wasn't built with the consumer in mind.
Yeah.
Branded resale was to give brands more control over the product life cycle.
Yeah.
And it's more about customer perception than what they're actually doing. Because a lot of these branded resales are owned and operated by third-party companies like Archive Resale or Trove or Treat.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of them out there now. Where in those types of situations, it's completely hands off. The brands have nothing to do with it. But to the consumer, it looks like it because they go to their website and they see like Rebird or whatever,
Yeah.
and
What's Patagonia reworn or
worn wear.
worn wear? Yeah, every brand has one
Yeah.
now. So if you guys don't know exactly what we're talking about, it's like it is a huge thing. Almost every brand I feel like has a secondhand marketplace, and they all have their own names of rewear, reworn, like ties back into their brand somehow. But you'll see in a lot of these branded websites that there's a link that you can go and buy all like, secondhand Arc'teryx or something that they get back from the customer and resell.
Yeah.
But to your point, it's not necessarily about the betterment. It's just another kind of, I think, channel for them to try to keep money in their funnel and also honestly convert more customers
Totally.
to their brand
Yes.
specifically. So I think, well, obviously you are doing it with like any brand. You're not branded, your articles in common, and you accept like all sorts of different brands and things. I think it was Flylow maybe or some brand. They started a secondhand and they were accepting things back from other brands,
Yeah.
but to like recycle it. They weren't reselling that brand. So what do they do if they got a different brand's biz back? I don't know, but then they're like, you can buy these. Oh, it was a credit. That's what it was. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's like a credit to buy their
Yeah.
product. So again, all these ways to like funnel money back to them specifically.
Yeah. I mean, and that was another thing as to why Articles in Common got started is because as these resale platforms, branded resale platforms started to pop up, I started to try them out, because I was genuinely excited by it. And because the sustainability talk and the circularity talk has been ongoing in fashion forever compared to the outdoors. The outdoors hasn't even scratched the surface. And so, you have companies like Patagonia saying, we're not in the business of fashion, but you are.
Yeah.
Because you produce at a mass scale. Just because you're not Shein doesn't mean you're not in the business of fashion. And so, that's just another form of greenwashing. But anyway, my original point is that what we're trying to do is make it easier for people. Because if it's not easy and if it's not effortlessly integrated into your life as a lifestyle, then it shouldn't have to be a big lift. It shouldn't have to be this big choice for you. It should be really easy
Mm-hmm.
that you don't have to think about it. The sustainability aspect and the circularity aspect is on the business, not the consumer. And that's what I wanted Articles in Common to be based on. And that's why we work with our members to be able to accommodate whatever it is that they need.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I say our members, some of our members are athletes, pro athletes that get it, that get the whole environmentalism. They're environmentalists themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't want to be a part of that. They don't want to be a part of that machine.
Yeah. And that's such a good, just everything. I mean, like I said, it's so hard for me to have these conversations because I feel like it's often overwhelming. And a lot of times I feel like they end with like, there's no answer, right? What do I do? What do we do? What can we do? But supporting things that are in people and brands and companies like yourself, I think is a huge step. And just doing a little more of our own research as consumers. Because as much as, we say like it shouldn't be on us, right? But right now it that's kind of where it's landing, and we unfortunately do have to take more into our own hands at this point to make the right choices, and educate ourselves. And that's, I mean, what we're trying to do with having people like you on the podcast too. It's a lot about, again, myself and learning, because I'm not going to be perfect whatsoever, and no one is, and no one expects anybody to, but how can we be better? And so we've talked about Articles in Common and being a secondhand resale shop, and the differences kind of between you or a branded resale is that you don't take from only specific brands. But tell everyone how exactly Articles in Common works, and how, if there are people out there who have gear or whatnot, they want to get to you and be a part of, like, a member, or just get rid of their things in a more sustainable way, because it's not always easy to taking things to a thrift shop isn't always the answer either, because at a certain point, the thrift shop has to get rid of things, and then what, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, let us know how exactly Articles in Common works on the resale side.
We actually work with other resale shops, just like you said in that scenario where they just have so much dead inventory, um, that they don't know what to do with.
Mhm.
And a lot of times they'll either donate or resell it to us, at bulk. And so, I mean, that's a part of our wholesale offering, which is with, we have a membership, WildUp membership, where, and this is more geared towards people with a lot of gear.
Mhm.
So, and they don't want to do all the work of listing the gear themselves and dealing with all of that, because it is a lot of work. Um, but yeah, and so WildUp is really like a full service resale program, and where we literally pick up all your stuff. We handle the process, and we handle the cleaning. We handle the photographing of it, and all the time intensive research of getting all the technical details about the gear, about the products online. But then what's also really great is that we're able to optimize, um, all these listings for our members. And membership is $98 a year, which is like literally nothing. Um, and yeah, and it sells faster
Yeah.
because we're doing cross-platform selling.
Okay.
Um, and but we recently started WildUp Plus, which is catering more to outdoor outfitters and outdoor nonprofits like Knowles or Outward Bound, organizations like that, or even smaller ones. It doesn't have to be some big operation in order for us to work with them. Um, and that's really just to give these nonprofits and smaller shops a way to get rid of their gear. Um, And what we're doing with this gear, this end of life gear, for example, we collect a lot of rental fleet shoes from climbing gyms in SoCal. And so we're currently working on applying for grants to get funding um, to be able to sort these materials, separate the materials from these rental shoes, and get that material upcycled. But the problem right now is, one, there's not rubber's just like any other commodity. Like it doesn't, but unlike aluminum or glass or something like that, it doesn't hold or retain its value. And so industrial recyclers aren't going to pay for that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the brand doesn't want to pay for it. The climbing gym doesn't want to pay for it. So then what's left?
Right. Where does it go?
Where does it go? It gets thrown in the trash.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people don't even think about it. And so when we started accepting donations, that was one of the first things that started to show up for us was 500 pounds of rental shoes. And it's like, okay, so what do we do with all these rental shoes? You know? And so we've been talking to people like Vibram and talking to people like TerraCycle to figure out like, how do we do this? You know, how do we come together and just, because it's not impossible. It's not like we can't do it.
Right.
It's totally feasible
Yeah.
for us to separate the rubber from the shoes and get that rubber upcycled. It just comes down to money. Who wants to pay for that?
Right.
And so we started the Resale project as an initiative to unite the climbing industry to come together and say, hey, we want to be a part of this project. We want to chip in. We want to do our part. We want to, you know, contribute to a solution and not constantly churn out and contribute to the problem.
Right.
And so that's an initiative that we started. And we hope to continue initiatives like that throughout all different outdoor sports. You know, as we see more and more things like this occurring. You know?
It's a great point because that is a point of contention for a lot of these things is that there is no system in place right now for some of these things that people want to recycle. I mean, working at a retail store, there were plenty of people in our that come and they're like, what can I do with my old stuff that I can't donate because there's a hole in it or whatever, but like there's got to be, I don't want to just throw it away. There's so much material left. How can this be reused?
Yeah.
And there's more programs and things coming along, but it feels like a lot have started and then it gets to a point where the cost is not like worth it for whoever, you know, and that part kills me so much that it's like, it can be so costly to recycle some of this material, but what's the alternative? If the alternative is trash, then we have to figure out a way to pay for it and to obviously things are going to be really expensive at the beginning, I feel like, but I don't feel like people have given it enough time to create better systems in some of these recycling programs or things that it's just like, oh, it costs too much, we're done. It's like, well, wait, you haven't even like been able to explore ways that you can maybe get the cost down, or going back to the drawing board and like, well, how do we stop making it with this material that is entirely too expensive to recycle?
But the thing is, companies are not going to do that on their own.
Yeah.
It takes policy reform and it also takes pushback from the consumer, from the public.
Yeah.
That's what's going to, and so we're trying to build awareness through the climbing community about the waste that's being generated so that way they can help apply pressure to these gyms to do the right thing, because ultimately they're not going to do it on their own.
Exactly.
And this doesn't just apply to climbing gyms. This applies to all outdoor businesses. And let's take, for example, the PFAS thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody did anything about PFAS until they had to.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
And so, and even then, even now, they still try to find loopholes through the system.
It's incredible.
So, and California's, you know, they passed extended producer responsibility laws, but even then, that doesn't even apply to everyone.
Yeah.
It only applies to specific categories, and it only applies to businesses generating revenue over more than $1 million.
Wow.
How does that actually solve anything?
Exactly. And then that's also not what, like, you got to dive in more to like know
Yeah.
and learn, because from the outside, it's the headline of PFAS in California, or like, you can't get them in 2025 or 2026. It has to all be out, like, but then all of a sudden, yeah, you learn more like, oh, actually doesn't apply to me or this or that. And it's, it's wild. You try to pass these policies, and like I said, there's all these loopholes that come up. And again, it's like, the onus shouldn't only be on us, but it is, because we have to apply the pressure to policymakers, to brands, to all these people, to hold them accountable.
Mhm.
And it sucks that, I guess, I don't know, that's capitalism. Like, nope, we're the business, we're the upper hand, we're gonna do it this way, and we're not gonna change until we have to. Um, and it just, like I said, these are
But
the conversations that
yeah,
can be like, get you like, dang, it feels like we're never gonna
we
push
can't
forward.
we can't wait till they choose.
Yeah.
We cannot wait. Everyone, the planet
Yeah.
cannot wait for Patagonia to save the planet.
Right. Yeah.
Because let's talk about this. We're in the middle of climate collapse right now.
Mhm.
We're not even talking about net zero anymore.
Yeah.
We're not even talking about achieving 1.5. We're even talking about achieving 2. We're now starting to talk about 3 and 4. And the scientists have already stated that we are in the middle of climate collapse. We have surpassed all of these boundaries that we are not supposed to surpass
Yeah.
in order for the earth to be able to sustain itself, right? And yet we're not having this conversation in any outdoor event that I've been to,
Hmm.
in any outdoor panel that I've spoken on, in any outdoor trade show I've gone to. I've heard a conversation about PFAS.
Hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
So it's like, how is the industry really going to be sustainable?
Hmm.
Because the way that it is right now, it is not.
Yeah.
It relies on outdoor recreation. And we're not talking about all the climate disasters that are occurring.
Hmm.
Let's take Asheville. Let's take Texas. Let's take LA
Mm.
and Hawaii with the wildfires. I mean, how is that impacting the outdoor industry? How is that impacting outdoor communities? Look at the girls' camp in Texas. You won't see that in Outside Magazine,
Right. Yeah.
but why not?
Hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I get really intense about it, and I try not to, because I feel like intensity kind of like, some people focus on the intensity of the message rather than the message itself.
Yeah.
Um, but it's hard, it's hard not to, because you see all these things and you're asking all these questions like, well, why is this happening? And we can't wait for businesses to solve these problems, because they're all trying to solve them interdependently.
Hmm.
How do you solve a problem that requires circularity interdependent from one another?
Right.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
Outdoors should be talking to fashion sustainability experts, because they've been in it longer, they've been doing this longer. And it all comes from the same place.
Hmm.
Whether they want to admit it or not, it all comes from the same source.
Exactly.
So, you know, um, for example, Everlane, they use Econol material for like their base layers, their bras and underwear.
Hmm.
Anybody else producing sustainable underwear is using Econol. Econol is also a really common material in outdoor outerwear. So it's all coming from the same place.
Yeah. And I love this part of the conversation too, because I do feel like, with just, again, the way we're structured in our society and things, that it feels that everything has to be one against the other,
Yeah.
instead of collaboration.
Right.
And it's like, for these kinds of things, like when it comes to climate crisis and whatnot, it cannot just be this brand who's doing it right and doing it best. Like, we need to share resources. We need to talk about like how we can all do this together. And if everyone's part of the same, like, comes together to create these better recycling or whatever programs, sustainability, like, that's way better than you having your own special, like, branded thing that you do, and you're gatekeeping sustainability. Like, what? And I also love that you brought up fashion has been doing this and talking about it for so much longer because of my own ignorance, not being in that world at all. This is something that came up again recently in the last few months with my futurist cohort, a gal who was in the fashion industry for a while. She's like, I brought this up in a question that we had, like, the outdoors is doing all this, but like, why don't we hear it from anywhere else? Like, we need people who are not just in the outdoors to talk about sustainability. How do we get these bigger, everyday kind of household brands or something to talk about it? She's like, well, it has been a conversation in fashion for a long time. And so again, like, that was my ignorance of not being in that world, but it still then feels like it's in this side of fashion or this side of outdoors, but where is the conversations that need to be had, like literally Old Navy and at the malls, right? The everyday people. How do we get this message through to people who are not immersed so much in one industry? I think that for me is the part that's frustrating and hard to figure out, but it would help if big brands like the North Face, Patagonia, that are part of like more everyday general consumers, like, talking about it in a different way, not just like,
In a real way.
yeah, exactly. Not just buy this piece, it's more sustainable, but really
Yeah.
talking about what the problem is, not just talking about the problem so it sells their next product.
Exactly. And I mean, does the message from the director of sustainability at the North Face really resonate with the everyday outdoorist?
Right.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
It doesn't resonate with me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I go to OR and, someone from OIA is talking about PFAS, does that really resonate?
Mhm.
Not really, you know? But if we had people, real people, not fake people, I'm not saying that
Yeah.
they're fake, but if we had real conversation, and by real, I mean like what we're having,
Mm-hmm.
that we're not afraid by what a brand might do, or or that they might drop their sponsorship to your event or to your publication, and that's why you don't want to produce these types of stories
Yeah.
and have the real conversation, because you don't want to risk losing that brand partnership
Yeah.
and that revenue, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where independent media really plays a big part. Independent media like you, like Meg,
Yeah.
just everyone. Because even take Field Mag. You're not going to see an article about the climate collapse in Field Mag.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to touch that.
Yeah.
And so we started another initiative called Wild for Climate to address this, to bring independent voices together that want to focus on telling the stories without having this
A
gatekeeper
bias.
that
Yeah.
says, no, we're not going to produce that. No. North Face is our main sponsor. Patagonia is our main sponsor. Arc'teryx is our main sponsor. We are not touching that story. Like, so Wild for Climate is really an incubator, and it's still in the process, and we're going to launch soon, but it's a Kickstarter. So that way anybody can help support these different stories and get them produced, whether that's editorial, whether that's film, short story, whatever. So that way these writers and these creators can talk freely and say what they need to say, what needs to be said.
Yeah. I think that's huge. And I mean, I think anyone out there listening, whether you're immersed in like the outdoor climate conversation or know about it, whatever it is, I think we all know in today's world how media and the news has just been so awful the last, I don't know, decade, probably longer, much longer, obviously, but it's become more of a conversation. I think that we're realizing like, no, we need to find independent news and media because every mass media channel is biased, right? You're
Yes.
that we know over the recent years, especially with the news, like, you know, your Fox News, your CNN, your NBC, whatever, has a different, you see different things on those channels because of what feeds into their audience or their beliefs or whatnot. And the conversation around independent media as a whole, I think, has become more widespread, and it is just so important to have it and to protect independent media because, again, they're the first ones to go down because they don't have money and funds behind them. So they are getting taken down. Stories aren't published, or, you know, people are going after them, trying to quiet them,
Mhm.
basically.
Mhm.
And I think that's an amazing initiative that you're starting to, within the outdoor industry, is have a place for these folks to be able to talk about what's actually going on
Mhm.
and not just protecting the person behind
The
it with
brand.
money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, like, the other thing is that just to add to that is we all know how powerful the outdoor industry is. It's a $1.2 trillion industry. We saw firsthand how much power we have with BLM lands,
Yeah.
you know, uh, in the big, beautiful bill,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And how the outdoor industry came together to, to, you know, stall that.
Yeah.
Why can't we do that for, we could apply that momentum, that effort, that unity to so many issues, to so many climate issues, to so many wildlife, wild environment issues, habitat issues. And that really gave me a lot of hope when I saw that, but it also gave me a lot of disappointment because I felt like we only care about the part that we have access to.
Right. Yeah.
But the wild is so much more than that.
Yep.
So much more.
It is all such a huge conversation. And I do think that the first step really is having it, right? Not being afraid to have
Totally.
it.
For sure.
And again, you're providing space with what you're creating and trying to also create this more circulatory environment with articles in common and having a second home for gear that isn't just about building up your brand, like I said, not a branded resale site, and getting people outside and trying to, what I feel from it is like erase stereotypes. Like, you don't have to
Yeah.
look this certain way. This gear still works. It's good.
Yeah.
And it's also, is it consignment for the people who like put their gear on?
Yeah. So for people who aren't members, you just go to our website. There's a form there to sell your gear.
Okay.
Um, and you know, you have to upload your photos and provide all the product information and all that good stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, and for non-members, the for members, the consignment rate is the payout is a lot higher.
Okay.
So that goes up to like 75%
Wow.
commission that a seller gets, a member gets, versus 50% for non-members
And that member cost was the $98
a year.
annually. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the whole connection got started from me talking about my Road to Rome campaign
Right.
and
Yes.
looking for some collaborations and partnerships. And, you know, you messaged me when I put it out there into the interwebs of, you know, how you'd like to learn more, whatever. We chatted, and I was like, look, how can I do something with you, be a part of this, and be more of a facilitator?
Yeah.
Because of what it is, I feel like, yeah, the system, we need money in the things that we do, but I am seeking out different opportunities. And I feel like everyone has to have kind of just in-kind partnerships. And I felt like this is actually something I could do with Articles in Common for me, that like I'm literally, like I said, the facilitator. And what we've come up with is having an Articles in Common drop station at Rome Fest.
Gear down, wild up.
Gear down, wild up. Love it. And so we are going to be at Rome Fest, in a couple weeks here, September 19th through 21st. We'll have Articles in Common drop station. You guys will get all the details on social and whatnot. But for any of you who are driving, especially if you did have any extra room in your pack, if you were flying or something, but mostly those of you who are driving in, because I know it's a lot of you like us, it's an opportunity for you to bring some of your used gear that you don't want anymore, but is in good shape. And I'm going to let Em kind of talk about how that drop station might work.
So, yeah, you'll be able to, I mean, we'll send out all the steps, what needs to happen if you want to participate through socials and stuff. But yeah, it's super easy. Like if you want to sign up as a member, all you got to do is literally drop your stuff off at Tarin's tent. And if you're not a member, like, you just have to go to our website, tell us what it is, send us the photos so we can tag your stuff and make sure that, it's that we match it up with the person that's selling it. But yeah, I mean, we want to start being able to do more gear drops and just like changing what the drop means.
Yeah.
Like this drop culture of like the latest drop, like doesn't have to be the new stuff. And so this Gear Down Wild Up is this program of just like this mentality of changing this mentality of like gearing down, letting go of the things we don't need that don't serve us, and wild up, like, like wising up to what really matters, to what the outdoors really means to us. And yeah, that's what it is. And so we're kicking it off with you at Rome, but this is just the beginning of Gear Down Wild Up. We're going to be doing this at more outdoor events, to use these events as a drop point for people who want to be a part of it, to be a part of the movement. It's not even about, we get so many people that are like, I just think this is so cool. I just want to donate something. I don't even care.
Yeah, that's where I was like, I don't want to even be in the middle of like, getting any kickback of any sort. I just want to, like, how can I facilitate and help be there to spread the word on what you're doing?
Yeah.
Because I think it's so important. And a lot of people want that opportunity, like you're saying, to like just get rid of their stuff that they don't need, doesn't serve them, but know that it has a better opportunity to get in the right hands rather than, like I said, just dropping at
Goodwill.
A thrift store. Like, we have pretty good thrift stores here in Truckee, considering we're an outdoor community, and a lot of people shop through those, and I think it ends up in amazing hands. But a lot of people don't, and it does end up somewhere like a Goodwill that it's just gonna also sit and then go into that, whatever their system is for getting rid of the things that don't sell.
I mean, like you said earlier, like, what can people do, in their own life with their own gear? And you talked about taking care of your gear. That's one thing. You can also just start repairing your own gear.
Yeah.
And learning how, right? I mean, there's a lot of people learning how to make their own gear.
Yeah.
You can learn how to repair your own gear. Instead of MYOG, it's RYOG.
I love that.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, like, let's start that.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. But we're also working on building out a online directory for people who just need to find a repair person in their town.
I love that.
So the Resale project on our website, people can go to find shoe cobblers to repair their shoes in their area, but now we're also building a repair directory. So it's really to unite all the people that have a repair business, and to give them space, because the outdoor industry isn't doing that.
Yeah.
We want to create space. We need to create space for resale and repair in the outdoor industry, because that's the direction it's going to have to take.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I
love that. And that's so cool. I put together a repair night. It wasn't the hit that I thought it would be, but I'm not giving up and want to do more. But one of the ideas for that repair night, we had no-sew patches, and I had some
cool.
pencils to just, a zipper trick, rub the graphite along a zipper for more smooth zipping. But if I had the time or capacity to build this event bigger, which I want to in the future, it was to find a local seamstress or someone who could teach some simple skills for a button or a tiny hole, if it couldn't just be covered by a patch, something like that. But anyways, I love everything you're doing, and with Articles in Common, there's so many components to it and whatnot that I think are amazing and that we need to get out there. I'm super excited to be a part of it with Rome Fest and offer the drop. So everybody out there who is going to Rome, stay tuned for social on what the details exactly will be to participate in the drops and whatnot. And then, find us there too to learn more, because you can always send stuff to Articles in Common when you get home. If you didn't have the chance to bring it to Rome, we just want to get the word out there more about what you're doing. But before we get out of here, is there anything you want to leave the audience with that you haven't yet?
I think we covered it all, honestly. I mean, if there's one thing, is just thinking more about your connection to the outdoors when you're there, when you're out doing the thing that you do. It's just really taking the time, taking a few minutes to just be by yourself, and just take it all in, because that's what it's about.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thanks.
Well, thank you so
you.
much for joining me today out here
Yeah.
on Donner. And
This was awesome.
yeah, I'm really excited, like I said, to just continue to collaborate and to chat and to see what you're doing, and also for our drop at Rome. So
Yeah, so excited.
thanks everybody out there for listening, for watching, and we'll see you next week. Quick note for those of you going to Rome Fest. Em has graciously offered a little promotion that if you drop 3+ pieces of gear off at Rome Fest, you'll get entered to win a WildUp membership or curated resale credit. So bring your stuff, drop it off at the box. Don't forget to sign up first through the website to make the process easier, but we'll be there to help you along the way if you need it.